World War II, the bloodiest battle in the history of the world. From 1939 to 1945, over 60 million men, women, and children lost their lives over the course of the war. A large portion of the war was fought on the Pacific Front between Allied United States and Axis Japanese forces. Naval battles were fought, slowly gaining territory over Pacific Islands, until the US decided that to end the war, the only way was to use a nuclear option. The US dropped the first atomic bomb onto Hiroshima on August 6, 1945. The Japanese still refused to surrender. 3 days later, the United States dropped a second bomb on Nagasaki, and thus forced the surrender of Japan. The bomb in Hiroshima alone killed 90 to 146,000 people. Most bodies were vaporized and unrecoverable. Nagasaki had around 40 to 80,000 casualties. Japan's defeat left a great mark in Japanese history and culture. No other moment in history had Japan surrendered.
So where were you when the bombs dropped?
Well, I was outside with my sister, tending to our flower bed in the back of our house. Obviously cutting down the weeds and watering the plants, etc., etc. We were out there, overall actually enjoying ourselves, when we heard this big come from what I thought would be the sky. So instinctively, I look upwards, and all I see when I look up is white, pure white. It burned. You could feel the heat coming from it. And I didn't see it for long, because right after that, all I saw was black. I saw nothing. I didn't know what was happening. Obviously, I was scared from that, but I didn't think it would be what it was. And from what you can tell now, I am blind, because I looked up at the sky after the second A-bomb was dropped on Nagasaki. What was your experience after the first bomb was dropped on Hiroshima, Japan?
Well, I am an ethnic Korean who was taken to Japan after the colonial rule of my country, and I was forced to work in Hiroshima until the end of the war. When the bombs dropped, people were instantly vaporized. People were bleeding everywhere. It was horrible. Lots of people suffered from radiation, including myself, who was diagnosed with cancer twice.
Do you have any messages for the audience at home?
Well, I want to point out that not just Japanese, but Koreans, Chinese, and others also suffered the effects of Hiroshima and Nagasaki.
Would you please recount your experience on the day the first bomb was dropped on Hiroshima?
Yes, it was early in the morning. I was in class when suddenly the instructor told us to get on the ground under our desks. Some of my classmates were sobbing. All of a sudden we heard a loud boom, and our ears started to ring. The ground started to violently shake. If you looked up, you might as well have been blinded. Then and there we all felt a radiant heat, like the sun was against the window. We were lucky enough to be indoors, but some were burnt alive, as it were. Many classmates died many years later due to radiation poisoning.
What was your experience in Nagasaki?
Well, I was at home. My children had just gone to school about half an hour ago. I was working on the car, which was in the garage. My children were probably learning. I was doing that up until I felt a huge vibration and a huge boom. I look upwards, and it's very bright, so I immediately duck my head downwards. So, after that, after I can see again, I start to walk around the streets looking for my children. I first head to their school, where I see many children dead lying in the corridors and outside. I did not see my children there. Then I went searching out for the streets. Maybe they were looking for me, I thought. They weren't. I never found them either. I never saw my children again.
After the devastation of Hiroshima and Nagasaki, the United States and their General Douglas MacArthur led the effort to rebuilding, reform, and sign a formal peace treaty with Japan. The first thing the Allied forces did was punish Japan for their militarization. They stripped away any military force Japan had and disallowed any former generals or military officers in joining the new government, which would become a democracy. The new government rebalanced the economy by reducing the power of landowners and corporations to create a capitalist system. The Allies also made major changes to how the country functioned and ruled. The emperor was to hand his supreme power to the new government and take the place of only the figurehead to the Japanese people.
Emperor Hirohito. In your surrender, you resign all control to the Supreme Council of Allied Powers, and you accept all changes that will come to the government. We all know you only want what's best for your people, and the Allies have taken that into consideration when making reforms and changes to your government. The first thing we demand is that Japan no longer poses a military threat to the world, and all remaining forces be dismantled immediately.
But how are we supposed to protect our nation and our colonies if we have no army? How can we trust that the Allied powers won't try to take over our great nation completely?
The Allied powers wish not to take over Japan, but to make it a permanent ally in the Council. There will be no need of an army when the Allies are by your side. The second thing we demand is temporary control of the government so we can restore it to its normal state, a better economy and a better government.
What are your plans for Japan exactly? How far are you going to go, MacArthur?
We plan to restore Japan to a democracy and make a stable place for government and for the people. What was your job during the occupation of Japan?
My job, personally, was to hand out food to the ill, hungry, and weak of Hiroshima. I saw lots of terrible things there that I would not like to go into detail upon.
How long were you there?
I was there for the whole 6 years.
What was your experience in Hiroshima?
Well, it was hard to adapt to. It was very hot compared to where I used to live. And it's just a very different place, seeing how you're almost always up against the water and being surrounded by all these sick and ill people. So much death.
And thus was the occupation of Japan. In 1952, the Allies had changed Japan drastically. The political future for Japan was secured to be a democracy. The new threat to the world was the slow rise of communism. This has been Japan after World War II.